Hello everybody, I'm Raphael Perry and it's time for some more Call of Cthulu. I mean, I suppose I could have recorded something else tonight and I know this one doesn't get a lot of views, but I'm intrigued. I'm wanting to push on and discover what's going on here. Even though, of course, with Call of Cthulhu, the whole thing is that it's a trap, and the more you get into it, the more you realise how trapped you are because you're too stupid to realise it, because you're not genre savvy, because you're Wally in the 1920s. But anyway, let's see. Pierce woke up in an asylum installed in the cellars of the Riverside Institute. He met Dr. Colden, a female friend of Bradley who helped him to escape. Yeah, but he saw Bradley die, and now Officer Bradley is acting as if he didn't die. Wandering through the corridors of this place where Dr. Fuller reigns supreme. There's an H there, it's where. Wandering through the corridors of this place where Dr. Fuller reigns supreme, Pierce was able to talk to a man called Francis Sanders. Before dying in full view of a detective, he accused Sarah Hawkins of being the cause of his torments. Pierce finally left the accursed building, accompanied by Bradley and Colden. The companions in misfortune decided to use the Hawkins mansion as a hideout. Now, I'm going to get to that in a moment. Oh, this cutscene made me very uncomfortable last time. So, one of the things, it was that electric sound there, made me feel very uncomfortable. And that mouthful beak.
That nightmare again. I need a drink.
So let's just take a moment to go over this. One of the main themes of Call of Cthulhu is that the monsters are ancient. They're aliens, they're from another world, they're completely different, weird, wibbly tentacle stuff that people just aren't used to and doesn't fit into our natural laws as we know them. And that they have been around for millennia, right? They've been around longer than the human race, and we're just like insects to them. We don't matter in the grand scheme of things. They have the long plan, and our existence barely even registers on their consciousness. So it's that feeling of being small and insignificant. And with that cutscene, when I saw it first last time, very late at night after that long session in the asylum, it did make me feel uncomfortable, especially that sort of electric shock, electric static kind of sound as the camera went back to the tentacles again. That made me feel quite uncomfortable. It was just like, well, bad sound. So, yeah. Let's look over a few things, because it's been a little while. We have knowledge. Things we picked up. Yeah, it was another medical textbook. I read the description of this, I believe, when I picked it up. The colossal work of an aristocrat from a long generation of physicians resulted in this encyclopedic work on medicine of the past century. More complete than older works, it sometimes mentions in detail certain methods from Asia and Africa, like acupuncture, or maybe trepanning. Right, what have we here? Oh, this is bad, yes. Francis Sanders, deceased. We'll also note that Charles Hawkins is no longer marked as deceased. Age 47, occupation art dealer. Wait, is this the same art dealer who was writing letters to Sarah begging her to make more paintings? If so, that would tie in with him saying, you know, she sees it and you see it and then you can't unsee it and all that stuff. Yeah. Francis Sanders knew Sarah Hawkins so well that he accused her of being the source of his suffering. The man gouged his eyes out with his own hands and smeared the walls of his cell with esoteric symbols, probably before he gouged his own eyes out, just a guess. He seemed to be obsessed with a shambler linked to Sarah Hawkins. He died before my eyes in circumstances that I cannot explain, when he kind of levitated up in the air, then was hurled against the wall as if some giant invisible monster was killing him. You know, it's not that, well, complicated, yes. Hard to explain, well, yes. Hard to justify, yes. Cellars of the Riverside Institute. Strictly speaking, I didn't spend much time in the hospital. When I woke up, I was immediately transferred into the cellars of the Institute, a sort of clandestine asylum, where Dr. Fuller carried out his experiments on patients without being troubled. Unknown machines sit beside anatomical drawings that are disturbing, to say the least. I just managed to escape from this place. I might not have much luck another time. Now, we're back at the mansion with the presumed deceased Officer Bradley and Dr. Colden. Something comes to mind. At what point is someone going to say, why isn't Dr. Colden doing her job at the asylum? Why is she here looking after me on my own? Now, maybe our detective Pierce is hallucinating and completely mad, and she's here looking after him. All that, and most of that stuff in the asylum and in the case down below didn't happen because our sanity is crumbling. And even if that is not the case, it's the kind of cover story she could use to justify being at the mansion instead of at the asylum, which is probably a right wreck by now. The people in town haven't found out about it, if half the stuff we saw was true. So let's see. Officer Bradley's friend. I'm just checking if these have been updated. No, that's the same. Officer Bradley. Nothing about having seen him die. So let's look into that, shall we? This sanity is dripping away. I still don't know quite what the exclamation mark is, or if anything is going to improve it. We now have shaken. Macabre discovery. And the death of Francis Sanders. Okay, let's see. Searching through the cellars of Riverside Institute, Pierce entered a room that he first took for a morgue, but the advanced state of decay of the corpses that lay about the place quickly made him realize that he was wrong. Nothing could justify the presence of such a charnel house in a hospital. The putrid smell and total absence of respect for human life, as witnessed by this room, profoundly shocked Pierce, costing him some of his sanity. That's the first time it's overtly mentioned sanity. But again, all of these things that have been to a hit to sanity so far, apart from this one, have been completely unavoidable. So again, I'm thinking that the sanity mechanic, while it does get reduced by things, may be just a plot mechanic rather than a gameplay mechanic. So it's going to end up pretty much all gone by the end of the game anyway. Now, there are no hints here that there is anything that could restore sanity. But you never know, right? You never know. The weirdness of Francis Sanders' death went far beyond anything Pierce had ever seen. Lifted off his feet by an invisible force, the poor man's body was carried into the air before being thrown violently against the bars of his hiding place. Hiding place? He was in a dentist chair in a kind of operating room. It's not really a hiding place. Pierce, powerless, watched the limbs break and Sanders' body crumble to the ground. Not crumple to the ground, but crumble to the ground. That's interesting, probably a typo. During long moments of agony, the detective saw nothing that could explain this event. Weakened by his wounds and the operations he could remember undergoing, Pierce begins to question his ability to tell the difference between reality and the nightmares that haunt him. Yeah, that's going to be a problem, isn't it? We have some character points to spend. We have 3 character points to spend. Where would we like to put them? We should start putting some into eloquence. We should keep up the spot hidden. And psychology would also be good to improve, as would investigation. Understanding past events and picking locks. Picking locks is useful, but I'm going to go and out on a limb here and say let's take it easy and go psychology this one. Not just improving the skill, chances of understanding the motivations of a person based on... Okay, or on the analysis of objects. Alright, so we're going to lock in these points here and just click that to get rid of the exclamation marks. So now we're going to go back into the mansion itself and meet Officer Bradley and Dr. Colden. And obviously I'm going to be on the lookout for any autosave things, which would be a good point to end an episode. Medical skill is going to amateur. Yeah. So I don't think the overall amateur to professional, the 3 ranks matter so much as the actual percentage itself. It's going to be 70 for 4, isn't it? I think it is. Okay. Let's see where this goes. Also, believing he wants a drink, bad idea. Now I've seen these before. And they're waiting down there for me. I'm just looking to see if there's anything here I can interact with before going down to say hello to my good friends. Well, that's stretching it a bit, isn't it? And it's daytime. I'm fairly sure the old man knows we're here. They've probably told him so that he doesn't freak out, and I suspect...
No.
Yeah.
I want to know what Bradley and Dr. Colden have to say about all this.
Yep. Because I'm sure they're struggling to remain sane too, if they've witnessed anything like I have.
You're awake, Mr. Pierce. How do you feel?
Terrible.
Did I sleep long?
The day is only starting. It's fine.
I'd better go speak to Officer Bradley then. Hello, Officer Bradley. I thought you died.
How's our fugitive? Dr. Fuller hasn't reported your disappearance to the force, but that'll come soon.
Bradley?
Who else would it be?
Mr. Pierce, are you all right? You look like you saw a ghost.
There are things I can't explain.
Tell us. What happened?
Okay, so the 5 ranks unlock things, but the percentages are for the skill checks. Ooh. You did see Charles was alive, didn't you?
What I'm sure of now is that the Hawkins case isn't just an accident.
And what brings you to that conclusion?
The fact that Charles Hawkins survived the fire.
I don't understand. Mr. Hawkins was buried.
That's what he would have you believe.
I have a hard time believing you.
You were there, Bradley. You even opened fire on him.
I'd remember that.
Why would he fake his own death? Do you think he covered up his wife's murder?
That's possible.
It seems hard to swallow. Don't you have anything more concrete, Pierce?
Well, I found this, whatever it is. This feels like a real, I'm going to be cautious of that, but, this feels like a real Poirot moment. We're all gathered in a nice living room with, beautiful light coming in through the windows.
I found a Darkwater PD badge. Lost a colleague recently?
What the...
Bradley.
Ethan?
I'm all right. I just had a... It's gone.
You're sure?
If it's important, it'll come back. But I can't explain why Dr. Fuller would have that badge.
The man's a danger, believe me.
What can we do, Pierce?
Is it your badge, Officer Bradley? Are you an imposter? You don't seem to remember very well, do you?
Bradley, what do you remember?
I don't understand your question.
The night we went into the Hawkins mansion. You don't seem to remember the tunnels and what occurred there.
No memory of going down any tunnel. No, we were in the manor, then,
Then what?
The rest is quite blurry. I don't recall how I came back home.
And then?
I went to visit you at the hospital. And called on Marie's help to get you released.
And you don't remember the events of the tunnel?
I don't. Let's talk about something else.
Yeah, so he's not stammering anymore. He's not acting like himself. He's acting more confident, and he's not remembering the things that his bumbling former self did. This feels like some kind of shapeshifter or imposter pretending to be him. Oh, that's grayed out. That's interesting. Well, I don't think I was going to get that much medical knowledge. I would have had to put points into that earlier.
You two know each other pretty well.
It's a tiny island. Everyone knows everyone. Especially since I'm a police officer and Marie's a doctor.
The chemistry is obvious.
I do seem a little bit stupid, don't I? Anyway, let's get back to the business at hand.
If they are that close, she should notice the difference in his behaviour. So I don't have this. That is locked, but it's visible. That's unfortunate. Well, let's talk to her. She just bopped out of her chair then and came back down again. That is unnatural behaviour. You didn't notice that, did you? You had your back turned. Oh well. Did Dr. Fuller found Riverside?
Given the energy he pours into Riverside, I presume it was Fuller's creation.
His father's, to be correct. He was a surgeon on board the Scylla. He founded the hospital in 1904 with funds from the Hawkins family before he died and his son Thomas Fuller took over.
Two families inextricably linked.
Most island families are that way. Captain Fitzroy's father was also a seaman aboard the Scylla.
Powerful families dominating everything.
Yes, and as you could tell, Dr. Fuller is like some crazed emperor.
He wouldn't be happy if he knew we were snooping around.
I know the risks. I don't fear him. Do you wish to know anything else?
So wait, that asylum's only been open 22 years? It's in a terrible condition. I mean, no one has looked after it well at all. Apparently Sarah Hawkins spent some time there, or was she treated here personally?
I found a file bearing Sarah Hawkins' name in the Institute's basement.
It makes sense. A powerful family like the Hawkins had the means to hide such a disgrace.
But everyone knows the Fullers have been taking care of the Hawkins for at least a generation. And all were aware of Mrs. Hawkins' fragility.
Perhaps, but no one would allow a psychiatric internment.
From what I read in the file, Fuller used her as a subject of his experiments.
Francis Sanders and Sarah Hawkins, subjects of Dr. Fuller. Why those two?
Well, he was her art dealer. Okay, so I saw some dead bodies.
Dr. Fuller seems to be leaving a trail of corpses. Not to mention those strange machines, chains, and tools of all kind.
Yes, I've been telling you that Fuller uses his patients as guinea pigs.
What I saw was more akin to torture than medicine.
Do you even hear what you're saying? Dr. Fuller is highly respected.
It's the truth, Ethan. And I'll prove it to you. I'm listening, Mr. Pierce.
Oh, this'll be interesting. How is she going to prove it? Well, in the meantime... Oh, I haven't got this, have I? I can't click on that. That is annoying. Oh, well. I wish they wouldn't grey out these things, because, I mean, for starters, it's really hard to get that high anyway. So, let's talk about what I had to go through.
I have flashbacks. They haunt me.
What did they do to you?
There was that Dr. Fuller. And a nurse. Blood. Everywhere. My legs. The pain. I couldn't bear it. I was screaming. They injected me with something. I woke up at the Institute. Bradley was there.
And how you scared us. You seemed... demented.
You likely woke up during the anesthesia. No wonder those memories haunt you. What in God's name were they doing to you?
What happened afterwards?
When I woke up the second time, I was in a padded cell. That's where you found me, Doctor. After you released me, I got a good look at what's in store for the patients of the Riverside Institute. Hallucinogenic gas pumped into the cells. An infernal machine. Horrific medical experiments.
Impossible. Dr. Fuller would never do such a thing.
You should believe it, Ethan.
Oh, he
What
might.
Mr. Pierce saw is precisely what I've been trying to prove. Did you discover anything else?
Well, I might be onto something, but it's kind of hard to say at this point because I don't have enough occult knowledge.
I met a Francis Sanders. Do you know him?
Of course, he's a patient. Or was. I haven't seen him since Dr. Fuller had him transferred to the basement.
He knew Sarah Hawkins, and that's what killed him.
What? How did he die?
I'm not sure I can explain it.
Tell me how Mr. Sanders died.
Well, there was some kind of invisible monster, but he said the Shambler.
I didn't see what.
Her skirt popped up again.
Something was there, with us.
Of what do you speak?
Sanders said it was Sarah Hawkins' visitor. He spoke of it like a living being.
Sarah Hawkins? Have I missed something here? This makes no sense. I don't see how it can help crack the Hawkins case.
You really think she's involved? How could she have murdered Mr. Sanders?
Francis Sanders mentioned Mrs. Hawkins just before dying. It's no coincidence.
You know, Francis Sanders was a well-known art collector. I guess you can still pay a visit to his wife, Irene Sanders.
An art collector, you say?
Wait, is she on the mainland?
That's probably how they met.
If you plan on having dinner at the Sanders household, please spare the widow the tale of her late husband's suffering.
Of
I don't
course.
agree. She deserves the truth.
But that truth may be biased. We don't know the bottom of it.
Well, let's be careful then. We don't want to let on what we know, because we could get into trouble.
You're right. Without a plausible explanation for what I saw, let's not jump to
Her
conclusions.
skin looks so
That
waxy.
seems wise indeed.
Very well.
Oh,
I'll go to see Francis's widow.
is that a good green sign
Perhaps
or a
I'll
bad
find
green
a link
sign?
between her husband's death and Sarah Hawkins.
Don't end up in the hospital this time.
I'll do my best.
Now, that is the first thing that has prevented this game from being linear. I hope there are more. Let's see. Inhabitants. Dr. Fuller, age 52. Interesting, he's back. He's got the grey beard here as opposed to the white beard from A Nightmare or the black beard from the photographs. Occupation, Riverside Senior Physician. Dr. Fuller reigns as the undisputed master of the Riverside Institute and of its cellars, in which he carries out illegal experiments on his patients. I don't know what he has done to me, but I shouldn't be back on my feet so soon after my fall when the tunnels under the Hawkins mansion caved in. If it even did. This man is dangerous, and I'd swear that he knows more about all this business than he's willing to tell. And I bet if I go looking for that secret passageway now, I won't find it. Hello, lady. Can I talk to you?
Let us go now and learn the truth about what's happening on this island.
How about you, sir?
The other night's events are still confused in my head.
No kidding. You died. Right. What can I do down here that may aid my investigation? So first off, I've found most of the things down here. If there's anything new here, that would be very suspicious. But what I can do is have a little rummage around and go upstairs to the chamber I didn't get to fully explore last time because I was jumped by a cultist who ran away, which Officer Bradley seems to have completely overlooked. Let's see if I'm denied the opportunity of going this way. Oh, okay. Wait, leave? My God! The Sanders residence! Pierce, Colden and Bradley decided to team up to solve the Sarah Hawkins case. They have a new trail to follow. Francis Sanders, an art collector and a friend of the painter who died right in front of Pierce, the detective. The detective goes to his house in order to speak to his widow about the Shambler that the unfortunate man mentioned before he died. And I may need to be cutting off the episode around now. Or if there's a save point coming up soon, I'll do it then. Hopefully there won't be a freaky vision of being trapped in some monster's grasp. Enter madness.
What can I do for you, sir?
Oh, she
Mrs.
was
Sanders?
waiting.
I'm a private detective. We must talk about your husband and his ties to Sarah Hawkins. Can I come in?
You may.
God, she's covered in freckles.
However, before we go any further, please know that my husband died yesterday.
Of course.
That is precisely what brings
Oh,
Well, well. Look who's here.
knife girl's here.
You know each other.
Our paths crossed, briefly.
We
The
met.
brave detective has a talent for sticking his nose into my business.
I bump into her every time I'm investigating someone's death.
It's a small island, detective. My island. It's better that it's you bumping into me.
You're investigating Francis' death. Why? Who hired you?
I spoke to Francis before he died. His story suggests a link to a case I'm working on.
Well, since this business has got nothing to do with me, I'll be in your husband's office, Irene. We'll carry on later.
Very
Acting
well,
like
Miss
she
Baker.
owns the place.
This way, Mr. Pierce. And do make yourself comfortable. It would seem that you have much to tell me.
So if I upset the widow by asking too much, then the other woman could shank
May I
me.
inquire as to when you had the opportunity to talk to my husband?
Yesterday, I met him at the hospital. He spoke to me about Sarah Hawkins.
Oh, of course he spoke to you about her. That's all he talked about. Sarah Hawkins and her paintings. Please forgive my tone. The fact is that I have not been allowed to see him since he was interned.
Ah.
You, on the other hand, a perfect stranger, were able to see him and even talk with him the day he died. How was he? Were you present when he had this attack? What happened?
Ooh. I am not gonna go with this one. He died screaming right before my eyes. No. You must not feel guilty. Psychology. I was no longer there when it happened. You're taking it quite well. I'm gonna go with this for starters.
What happened to your husband is terrible, Mrs. Sanders. But from what I saw, it was inevitable. The man I met yesterday had lost his reason. He suffers no longer, if you would allow me such a platitude.
And talk about saving over
course.
suffering.
Thank you for your kind words. Nobody in that hospital would have deigned to speak them to me. However, it will require more than that to soothe my mind. I need to understand. How could this happen? In a reputed institute? And right before your eyes?
Hey, I didn't
Did
say...
you not do anything to help him?
The dialogue's ignoring the fact that I omitted that. You know what? Eloquence. I did upgrade it recently, so I can try.
It's terrible what happened to your husband, but I had nothing to do with it. I was injured, and I came across him in the hospital quite by chance.
Injured? Well, I'm delighted to see you in such fine fettle, Detective.
Ooh.
Not everybody enjoyed such a prompt recovery.
She doubts the
I
injury.
suppose Fuller does do miracles now and again.
Luck is obviously very kind to you. Oh, I'm tired, Mr. Pierce. I would be grateful if you could tell me what you expect of me, and then leave.
Ooh. How do you know Sarah Hawkins? Right, this is a trap, right? If I ask what Kat's doing here, Kat's gonna find out I asked, right? She's either gonna hear from the next room or... So I want to be careful there, right? Ask about Sarah Hawkins, yeah. If I ask about the Shambler, this could be tricky. Ask about Sarah Hawkins is a mutual thing, but this might be a single choice, so I'm gonna have to go for it.
Did your husband talk to you about Sarah Hawkins' visitor? A shambler, to use his precise terms.
Well, you can imagine that's all he talked about. It's exhibited at the center of the gallery. No better place for the painting that endowed him with the privilege of such a shameful and miserable end to his life.
Hold on. The Shambler is a painting by Sarah Hawkins.
Who else? to paint such horrors. Take a look for yourself, if you feel so inclined.
It is my only lead at this stage. I suppose I have nothing to lose.
Then you have paid no heed. For my part, I refuse to set foot in that gallery again. But if you're so eager to see it...
Thank you, Mrs. Sanders. I won't be long.
It's a warning. Warning, it's a trap. Do I get an autosave? I do! Hooray! So this is a grand time to bid the widow a fond farewell and end the episode. I hope you all enjoyed this one, and I'll look forward to seeing you all in the next one. I'll say bye-bye for now, and cheerio!